everybody. Welcome back to GFBS. We're Grand Forks' best source on a Friday. And it's time for your Berkshire Hathaway bi-weekly podcast. Joining us in the studio today, realty expert John Brodeen is back in the studio. I give a little applause. And we'll be back to talk with John Brodeen right after this.
Look, if you want that home, let's go get you that home. And it's okay to feel a little nervous. Or to not know what to look for. Because, look, if you want that home, let's go get you that home. And it's okay to...
Oh, what happened there? That was kind of goofy.
Audio didn't match up.
A little audio issues there. Anyway, John Brodeen, how are you?
Good.
Good. Big plans for the weekend. It is Friday, you know.
I am going back to the cities.
Hi.
I've got a buddy's wedding.
Oh, I thought you were going to go beat more people up.
No, I'm not doing. I don't even want to think about that for a while.
You know, when you get done with one of these, I think you said you had 9 matches last weekend. How hard is that on the body the rest of the week when you got to come back to work and be John Brodeen realty expert? Is it tough to come back?
That's the easy part. On Saturday night last weekend, man, I could hardly sleep just because my whole body hurt. I felt like I'd get hit by a train, but I laid low all day Sunday, and then I was back in the gym on Monday. And you know, when you get right back, it's not like you're going really hard in the gym. You just kind of take it easy and slow it down a little bit. But it's not easy. The adrenaline kind of takes you through, but it was hard on the body.
And knowing you now, John, laying low on Sunday, it probably isn't the same meaning as my laying low on a Sunday where I'm on the couch drinking Busch lattes. Or are you just healing up, getting hydrated, drinking all your water and all that stuff?
Drinking lots of water. Well, you know, I had to make weight for that tournament, so I was dieting pretty strict in the weeks leading up to it. So I enjoyed myself. I had some red pepper, had some Dairy Queen, and
there you go, John Brodeen plugging the pepper and DQ for you.
There you go.
How much did you have to cut?
I had to cut about 7 pounds over a month.
Okay.
Get down to 185.
That can't be too bad.
It was pretty easy for me. I was even I think I was 184 point something when I weighed in. So it was just fine.
Now, do they weigh you in the day of, or do they do it? Okay. So it's not like the day before where at least you can go get some more food or something.
Nope. Weigh in at I weighed in at about 7:30 in the morning. My first match was a little after noon. So boy. Just go back to the hotel, drink a bunch of Pedialyte, and get some carbs in my system. Try not to overdo it because you don't want to eat too much where you're full, but eat a lot of like sugary stuff like fruit and like white bread with honey and that sort of thing.
I'm guessing it wouldn't be good to puke all over the mat.
No, that's frowned upon. Yeah.
Eating a quarter-pound cheeseburger and a large fries. Anyway, we always get sidetracked.
I know. We got to just make our own show where we talk about this stuff.
There we go.
I'll talk your ear off about it.
There we go. I want to ask you, you look around Grand Forks and there's apartment buildings going up all the time. These huge, huge apartment buildings. And you start to think to yourself, is there even enough people to live in these places? But what I'm getting at is buying versus renting. Pros and cons. Tell us about what you think.
Okay, so let's start with renting. Pros of renting. The biggest pro is flexibility. You can move when you want pretty much. It's not hard to move. You can't get stuck in place. Can't take a loss on a place. If you're going to move every year or something like that, or even every 6 months, some places do 6-month leases. You can get a new apartment. You can move cities. Absolute flexibility. No big repair or maintenance bills. You're not responsible for that. Like I said, you can move cities if you need to. Like you can follow a new opportunity. That's pretty important to some people. If property values dip in your area, you're not taking a hit on that.
Sure.
Property values don't historically dip over the long term, but every now and then there's short-term plateaus and little dips over the course of the rise of property values. So if you end up owning, or if you end up living in a city where they're in a plateau or a small dip, it doesn't affect you financially. Cons of renting: rents increase over time. So just like property values go up over time, rents go up over time. You don't accumulate any equity no matter how long you stay in the apartment. You could stay in the same apartment for 30 years and you would not have any equity in that apartment. You wouldn't have any ownership, nothing to show for it. You can't remodel the property and make it, fit to your taste. You know, you don't have much control over the property.
You can't be knocking out walls and,
Can't be knocking out walls. Also, you hear situations maybe more on lower end rentals where the landlord doesn't fix things on time or doesn't fix things right. So you end up with these issues that you can't fix yourself, really. It's not like you're going to hire somebody to fix it yourself because it's not your property. And the landlord's taking forever to fix it. Again, falls back to you have no control. That's important to some people. If property values rise, you also get no benefit from that.
Sure.
Right? So that kind of sucks if you're watching all your friends who own homes in the area and the market happens to be hot and, everybody's like, oh, my values have gone up by 15 grand in the past 2 years. And you're sitting there renting and you're like, oh yeah, my rent's gone up by $100.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the pros of buying. So property values do rise over time. You pay down your loan over time. So you're building equity through your property value rising. You're also building equity through your loan being paid down. And equity is the portion of the home that you own. So if your house is worth 200 grand and your loan is 150,000, you have $50,000 worth of equity. So if you sell it, you get a check for, there'd be fees and stuff. So let's say it's 40 grand. You get a check for 40 grand. So that's equity that you have in the property. That's part of the property that you own. That's a good thing to build up over time. Your mortgage payment stays the same on a fixed rate mortgage.
Yeah.
Taxes, insurance might rise slightly, not really substantial. Your principal and interest mortgage payment is going to stay the same over the life of a 30-year loan on a fixed rate loan. So meanwhile, everyone else's rents are going up. So let's say when you bought it, you could rent a 3-bedroom for $1,200 and your mortgage payment's $1,200. 10 years later, your mortgage payment's still $1,200, and now it costs $1,500 to rent a 3-bedroom.
Yeah.
So
and another good thing too, when you do have a mortgage, you don't have to worry about your taxes, your insurances, and all of that stuff because a lot of people think, oh, I finally paid off my house. I don't have a mortgage anymore. Oh, wait, I've got a $3,500 tax bill. Oh, and it's going to cost me $3,500 a year for insurance. So there's a lot of things too that are good about having a mortgage.
Yeah, because then you're escrowing for those things, so you're saving up, and it's a part of your mortgage, and it's handled without you even having to worry about it. That's the best because then it doesn't hurt when you have to pay those bills.
And then also living in an apartment around here, if you live in an apartment house, you don't have to worry about mowing the lawn.
Yeah.
Don't have to worry about shoveling the sidewalk.
That is but on single family rentals, you typically actually do.
Yeah.
So it's a trade-off. On an apartment, you won't have to worry about that, but if you owned a condo, you wouldn't have to worry about it either. Townhome, you wouldn't have to worry about it. Single family home, if you owned it, you would have to worry about it. Single family rental house, if you owned it, if you rented it, you're probably still going to be responsible for storm removal and lawn care. So that ends up being a little bit of a wash.
And apartments nowadays, they're not like they used to be. Now they're throwing in pools and gyms, and they got areas for your dog, and they've got all these other things. But they all come at a cost.
They all come at a cost.
Apartments are not cheap.
They're not, and those values rise. It's just the way it is. When you own a home, you can remodel it. You can add value. You can remodel it to your taste. Of course, we recommend doing tasteful, stuff that's going to appeal to the masses when you remodel a home, because that's going to help with property value. But you can do whatever you want to the house. You have complete control. So the biggest things about owning property are value going up when we're talking from a financial standpoint, values going up, mortgage loan, your loan on the property going down. Both of these things take time. The cons of buying is it's expensive to sell. So if you buy and then you sell too often or too shortly after buying, this is really going to eat away at your profits. So it's a long-term commitment. It's not a short-term turn it over every year. If you have to move shortly after buying, you can take a loss on it if your property value hasn't gone up and you've hardly paid down any of your loan, because it is expensive to sell. So that's the downside. You're responsible for the repairs and maintenance. So we help people with that when they're buying a home. You want to make sure you check the age of the furnace, check the age of the AC, check the age of the roof, check the age of the siding, windows, all that big stuff. But you are responsible for it. It's a long-term commitment, so therefore it's less flexible. If you try to make it more flexible and move often, it becomes higher risk.
Yeah.
So when deciding whether to buy or sell or buy or rent, the biggest thing that we take away from this is time. If you're gonna be living in this home in this city for the next 7 years. Usually we draw the line at like 4 to 5 years. If you're going to be living in it, if you can commit to living in it for more than 4 to 5 years, you're better off financially buying. If you cannot commit to living in it for 4 to 5 years, if you think there's a good chance you might leave in 2 years, even if this is somebody who comes to me and is thinking about buying a house, I'm going to tell them the truth. I'm going to say, hey, it's riskier if you think you're going to sell this thing in 2 years, because here's what's going to happen. You're not going to pay down much of your loan in 2 years.
Right.
Property values, unless you get really lucky with your timing, property values typically aren't going to rise that much in 2 years. You need to give this time. So if you're going to turn around and sell it in 2 years, like, you know, I'm telling you now so that you aren't surprised when I tell you in 2 years that you're not going to make a ton of money off this thing. And there's even a chance you could have to write a check to get out of it if the costs to sell it are more than what you actually own in the property.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there a number out there where you would recommend to say, you know what, it's time for you to stop renting and buy? Because some of these apartments, I mean, even one bedrooms now are going for $1,200, nice apartments. So you're tickling $2,000. Is there a number there, John, where you would say, man, you're paying that much for rent? Why don't you come and talk to me and let's see if we can't find you something?
It's really, I don't know if it depends as much on how much they're paying in rent, because you can buy a home in Grand Forks where your payments can be $700 a month.
Right.
You know,
right.
And you can buy a home in Grand Forks where your payments can be $4,000 a month. So your budget is your budget. And that's not going to make as much of a difference. The biggest thing though, is if you feel like you're a long-term resident, that's where, when you look at how much your net worth would be after 15 years of living in your apartment versus net worth after 15 years of owning a home, you're going to be blown away by how big of a difference there is. The homeowner is going to have a much higher net worth just due to, even if the market, let's say the market stayed stagnant for 15 years, you've paid off a huge amount of that home. So you probably have tens of thousands of dollars worth of equity that you wouldn't have had if you lived in an apartment, you know, for that same amount of time. And you've had control over the place the whole time. Like in an apartment or a rental, you don't have as much control over like your neighbors, and you can run into situations where you just have no control over what goes on, and it could affect your quality of life.
Yeah, like the TV commercial, you might have a clogging issue, or you might have whistling pipes or something like that. But you never know who's going to be above you, below you, or on each side of you, you know, unless you're up on the top floor in the corner somewhere.
Yep. Yeah, that's 100% the truth, and there's not much you can do about it. You know, it's up to the landlord, and most people want to have a little bit more of a say in those things. You know?
I mean, let's face it, some people are perfectly happy being in an apartment for their entire lives.
Yep.
I wouldn't be.
I'd argue though that if you decided to live in a townhome or a condo, you could get all the benefits of if you're going to live in, like when you say your whole life, it's a huge difference in the savings. Like, and that person who lived in an apartment their whole life, they probably started off paying $300 a month in that apartment, and now they're paying $900.
Right.
Whereas if they would have bought that same a condo that was comparable, they've probably had it paid off by now.
Right. Yeah.
They've got it paid off, and the condo has probably gone up in value. So let's say that it started off as a $40,000 condo, now it's worth $80,000.
Yeah.
And they don't have a loan on it, so they've got $80,000 in their net worth in that condo that they've paid off over the years, and they would have been paying rent the whole time because they still would have had living expenses. So, but in the short term, renting, like if you can only commit to living in a place for 2 years, the difference is going to be in 2 years, you buy a place with a low down payment, and you're lucky if you break even when you get out of it.
Right. And a lot more work, like you mentioned earlier.
To sell it.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of hassle, and you don't have much to show for it. And it's possible to take a loss. It's very unlikely to take a loss though if you own a house for 10 years.
Right.
You know,
right.
And you've been paying down the loan the whole time.
Yeah. So if you're one of those people and you think buying and selling houses, you can just do it like you're buying a bag of groceries or something. It's not that easy to do. It takes a lot of time. It takes money. But that's where realty experts like you come in.
Yep. The reason it's expensive to sell is because real estate is not a super liquid investment, right? It takes a lot of precision to sell and get top dollar and get all your money back out of these things. That's what we're here for. That's why we get paid. That's why people hire real estate agents, because you can leave a lot of money on the table if you don't do things right. So that's why people do need us. And, you know, it's you don't hire, you know, an agent to try to sell your Apple stock for you. You just call up your broker and they
Right.
sell it. And it's not like they make a huge amount on selling that for you because it's pretty easy. But when you're talking about selling a house, there's so much that goes into it. The staging, the preparing, the market research, the pricing, the making it showing ready, handling negotiations from inspection, appraisal, initial negotiations, all the way through closing. It's a very precise process the way it has to get handled.
They call you a realty expert for a reason, don't they, John?
Yeah, I guess. I'll agree with you.
How does somebody get a hold of John Brodeen, realty expert for Berkshire Hathaway?
701-213-5428. Follow my Facebook business page, John Brodeen, Berkshire Hathaway Realtor, for monthly market updates and lots of other great info. 701-213-5428 if somebody wants to become a client of mine.
Hey, you have yourself a wonderful weekend, all right?
Yes, you too, John. Thanks.
All right, and I tell you what, if you're buying or selling a home with John Brodeen and Berkshire Hathaway, maybe you need to do a little work to it before you sell it. Maybe John says, you know what, you need to fix this and that. Get a hold of Executive Properties. They do all types of commercial and residential work. Doesn't matter if you need the kitchen fixed or a bathroom tweaked or maybe some more concrete poured. They will do it all for you, and they'll do it the right way with over 30 years of experience. Let them take care of you. It's Executive Properties, 701-330-1273, or go to executiveproperties.org. And for the week, there we go, your Berkshire Hathaway bi-weekly podcast. And we'll see which realty expert we have coming in on Wednesday. Have yourself a great weekend, everybody.